You're a player, you'll succeed. You'll get another job. You'll be fine. And jobs are never as good as you think. It's about how good do you make the job, not the job itself. No job itself is great. It's what you make the job. So when Bill Belichick drafted Jimmy Garoppolo in 2014, he saw that he thought Brady the end was near. He drafted him in the second round. This was not a fourth-round pick. By 2015, 2016, he was ready to move off. They were ready. And Robert Kraft stepped in and said, no, Tom stays, Garoppolo gets traded. So Belichick was not happy. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened to Belichick's legacy. Let me explain it. So I was reading some stats on Tom Brady, and these are like next generation stats, the stuff that like baseball's obsessed with. We don't talk a lot in football, thank God. But they're fascinating. Brady right now has the longest air distance pass of the year, the fastest pass thrown this year, the fastest top speed next generation era. He leads in a lot of these analytic numbers that are like bizarre because, you know, he's 44. It doesn't ruin Bill's legacy. We consider Bill a genius and Tom amazing. I mean, Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl after the Colts. We don't crucify the Colts for it. Like, we know that quarterbacks get old. Walsh moved off Montana. But Tom Brady, with these numbers you're seeing, what if he has 4 more years left and keeps crushing? I mean, he's won 12 of 13 games, half by blowout. In fact, I think 7 by blowout. So when New England drafted Garoppolo in 2014, by about 2016, they were ready to make the move. And Kraft said, you can't do it. So just from 2014 alone, I'm going to give you Brady's numbers. This is when New England saw erosion, and we're getting close to moving off him. Since then, he leads the NFL in passing touchdowns, wins, Super Bowls, and passing yards. He's first in all of them. All of them. Mostly easily. Like wins, he's 21 more than anybody else. That's Russell Wilson. So just think about this. Had Kraft not stepped in and Belichick moved off Brady in 2015, 2016, and Tom goes somewhere and has this success for 10 years, not one like he's had now or potentially 2 or 3, but Brady had literally another decade of great or another 8 years, I think we'd view Belichick differently. We'd look at him as really lucky to have Tom and a crazy, silly old man. I think we would look at him differently. You let go of Tom with 9 years left? How can you whiff that badly? Now, I think we go, greatest coach, greatest quarterback. Hey, you got to move off all these guys eventually. But you start looking at these next-gen stats and where Brady's at. Bro, it's like 4 years left from now? He's won 12 of 13? I do wonder if it's the classic, I wanted to do something, a superior or a boss wouldn't let me. I'm really, really mad. Belichick should thank his lucky stars that Kraft, the global visionary, stepped in and said, nah, I think we got the right guy. Let's keep him for about 5 more years. Because I don't think we look at Bill the same. If Brady had gone somewhere in 2016 and chopped it up until now and is still the greatest, Belichick would look more like a silly old man, like a silly old outdated man who didn't even know the future of his best player. Joy with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Kyrie Irving will not be with the Nets for the foreseeable future due to his decision not to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And now the organization could be moving off of him completely. Shams Charania was reporting that the Nets have not had contract talks with Kyrie or his camp for a while, and the team will not be offering Kyrie a contract extension moving forward. But Kyrie is standing firm in his decision and spoke about it for the first time yesterday.
Okay.
You think I really want to lose money? You think I really want to give up on my dream to go after a championship? You think I really just want to give up my job? You think I really just want to sit at home and not go after the things with my teammates that I've been able to grow with, to learn that it takes sacrifice in this space? You think I want to give up my livelihood because of a mandate, because I don't have accommodations, because I'm unvaccinated? Come on.
You know, I actually thought, as I heard that, I thought it actually helps Brooklyn. because now he's more tradable. Like when you hear he's going to retire, it's like, I'm not getting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But when I heard that, I was like, oh, now Brooklyn can move off him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, and like, Brooklyn's going to move off him. You know the other thing that was really interesting? James Harden was asked about Kyrie Irving yesterday because I've never talked to him. And I thought to myself, if you were going through a crisis and somebody asked me about this 6-week crisis, and I said, I haven't talked to Joy. It's like, oh, then you and I don't get along because you and I talk all the time.
Right.
So if you're going through a crisis or I am, and somebody said, how's Colin? You're like, I haven't talked to him 6 weeks. We ain't tight. Like when James Harden's like, I haven't talked to him.
Yeah, I thought that was very telling as well.
I think Kevin and James have decided.
I thought that was telling about the fact that the Nets have decided not to keep him in this halfway space. I do not believe that Harden and KD were not solicited in that conversation.
So, of course they were told.
And asked how they felt about it.
That's right.
So that being the situation with the Nets was the first tell that they are like, we are ready to go on and try and win a championship. He can do what he wants. Then Harden saying that makes a lot of sense. But to your point, him saying that he still wants to continue playing is a big.
It helps.
It's positive. For
absolutely.
The Nets.
And you know what? KD and Harden are smart veterans. I could almost guess what they're saying. Bruh, we don't have that many years left. We're not in this thing to play around like.
No. And like that's the biggest thing with this, because there's so much conversation around the Kyrie situation, and it's like, why does everyone have an opinion about Kyrie? Like, probably because he's a star in the league that we cover and get paid to give our opinions about on a team with two of the other biggest stars in that league.
They're favored to win the championship.
Yes.
They'd be like Kansas City is not talking Chiefs. Of course you're talking Chiefs.
Of course you're going to talk about it. And we have injury reports every single week, so this is not a privacy thing. No one is going to vaccine jail. So listening to him talk about, mandates and do you think I want to give it up? Yes, you do want to give this up because it is a choice that you are free to make.
Right.
So when people start talking about freedoms, you fundamentally don't understand what that word means. You have freedom of choice. You have freedom of speech. You do not have freedom from consequences.
Right.
That is not how the universe works.
That's right.
If I choose to drink this coffee, I might have to use the restroom in an hour. That's how choices work. So there's not this fantasy world where you can just do whatever you want and nobody is allowed to react to it.
I always said, I have freedom, so do my bosses, and they're richer than me. Like at Fox, I have to get vaccinated. I do have the freedom not to, but my boss is a billionaire, and then he has choices too, and I can't come in the building. So we all have freedoms, but there are limitations too. The billionaire and the commissioner have freedoms too, and the freedom is to say you can't come in the building. So we all have freedoms.
Every choice has a consequence.
That's right.
Positive, negative,
you have
neutral.
A right. My kids could drop out of high school. My son could. But I would say to him, you're going to be less successful, have fewer options in life. But if he decided not to go to high school, I can't drag him by the hair there. There's a choice, but he's thankfully smart, smarter than dad. But the point is, you can do a lot of things even as a kid, but there'll be consequences for him.
The frustrating, look, whatever my opinion about what Kyrie is doing is really irrelevant, because when it comes down to talking about actual basketball, the bottom line is, he cares more about grandstanding for this fantasy community than he does about winning a championship. Yeah. That cannot be argued no matter what side you're on, because if it was your number one goal in life, you would do whatever it is it takes to be available for your team. And Kyrie has prioritized this Reddit group over winning a championship. Yeah. And that's his choice to make. And it's our opinion that is a mistake. Maybe that's not what Kyrie's priorities are. Yeah. And that's completely fine. And the most frustrating thing about this to me is Kyrie really does a lot of great things in the community. Yeah. And a lot of great things for other people. And all this is being overshadowed by this idea that there's this oppression happening when we're in a global pandemic and you're speaking to people who don't even understand that there is an entire world outside of the United States that's also being affected by COVID. And this is not an American government conspiracy.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's 209 countries in the world, and they're all going through it.
No. It's all about the government. Yeah. It's just, the bottom line is, it's not about him being selfish. It's about him choosing to not be available, and he is free to make that choice. He is not speaking to you from vaccine jail.
Yeah.
So Odell is back healthy with the Browns, but he still hasn't been a big part of the offense. Last week against the Chargers, he was only targeted 3 times, 2 catches for 20 yards, but Kevin Stefanski says Odell still has a future in the team's plans.
I kind of look at each game and what do we have to do to win? what do we need to do to go score a bunch of points? As I've mentioned before, he's a dynamic football player. He's very front of mind when we're game planning, when we're calling plays. Sometimes the defense dictates that the ball goes elsewhere, and we're comfortable with that because we have good players elsewhere.
Well, he's not going to be there for